All right, welcome everybody. Hi, my name is Gerald Flynn, and I'm one of HP's Channel Alliance Specialists. And I'm going to be talking to you today a little bit about HP and AMD and why you guys should be kind of considering that in your arsenal when you're going about selling customer solutions, and specifically on the public sector side, but you can be just about anywhere. I've been in this role for about 7 years, been with HP about almost 18 years, but I'm really excited to be here with you today. And I also want to introduce my friend James from Microsoft. If you want to quickly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thanks so much. So James Coombs here, one of the channel executives at Microsoft over DNH. And today, during my portion, we're going to be covering Autopilot and just sort of doing a level 100 run through Autopilot and how that makes sense with some of your pro devices.
Great, thanks, James. We'll look forward to hearing from him soon, but let's go on with a little bit what we're going to be talking about here today. So as I mentioned, I'm going to be talking about all the cool and new that's come from AMD and how that incorporates into HP's commercial lineup and why you guys should be considering that a little bit in there. We also participate on, maybe some of you within the audience are participating in our program, which is called Ignite, which is on focus on HP AMD devices powered by Microsoft. And so a lot of this may be relevant to you. If it's new to you, great. We're going to have a great opportunity to kind of work with them. I want to also give a special thanks to the DNH team for inviting us out here to give us a talk. So without further ado, let's go ahead and talk about the content. So moving along and getting into the project that we've got in there, I want to kind of set the table a little bit about talking about the new environment that we're working in. So a lot of us, as we realize that this new hybrid work or where we work or how we work has changed quite a bit over the last couple of years, especially being in the pandemic. A lot of us figured out that, hey, what we were using prior to the pandemic or during the pandemic just isn't going to cut the mustard anymore, right? A lot of stuff we're working forward, things have changed and a lot of areas have changed. We're doing a lot more collaboration, as it's kind of pointed out here. And then we've also seen a lot of shifts. Some people are kind of working in a hybrid environment. They may be working in an office one day and in a coffee shop next, or out of a hotel room or a lobby. And a lot of that has changed quite a bit with it. And then, of course, we've also got to keep in consideration mitigation against the bad guys, right? Security threats are huge. There's a lot of things that have happened out there, and a lot of things have kind of focused on what we're doing. And we at HP have also kind of think about, look, when you're buying a new PC, security should be a part of that discussion. And as we know, we've also seen and all read a lot of these bad stories that are out there. But with that in consideration, a lot of us, so HP, AMD, even Microsoft and others, we're all kind of working on these three new things to be the best experiences that are out there. And so with that in mind, let's kind of talk about what's great and coming back from AMD and how they're taking approach at that. So a lot of you may or may not be already using or have heard of AMD Ryzen and Ryzen Pro processors, but they've actually been on a tear the last 5 years. They're one of the fastest growing companies in developing really good solutions that are out there. I know there some of the audience may be in gamers, maybe used Xboxes or PlayStations. Believe it or not, AMD's in a lot of different places, and they're delivering and kind of really on the cutting edge of a lot of stuff versus what the competition is even offering out there. And it really has kind of come down to this mobile experience like we talked about. We've got to have something that works, that's going to give me snappy presentation modes, that's going to work with the workload I'm doing, and then also protect and make it just a really good experience. And AMD's kind of approach on this is like there's several links or critical things that make that experience happen. And it really comes down to the performance, the thermals and noise, and then it really relevant thing it's kind of come to light is battery life, right? A lot of people may not be able to get to a charge or be able to have an opportunity to charge up for the full day. And so they've got to make things work. Well, as of recently, AMD, with their latest and greatest processors that they even announced at CES not long ago, really they have been kind of been known by a lot of the people in the know that, hey, they're delivering some of the best experiences out there based on the fact that they're delivering longer battery life, based on the fact that they're giving some really good performance per watt. And they're really are being recognized as, hey, maybe this is the option we better look at when we're looking for these solutions that are things that are going for there. As a matter of fact, there at the bottom of this slide, PC, and it's a couple of people in the know have noticed that, hey, AMD is offering some of the best solutions that are out there. So with that in mind, let's kind of drill down and talk a little bit about AMD. Well, as of recently, a lot of you guys may have been noticed or been using the Ryzen name has been more and more used, and it's growing. This is kind of going into the 6th year of having AMD Ryzen, and they've really been leading on the technology and the process where they've gotten smaller, less expensive, but they're also very dynamic in the fact that they can deliver performance per watt and battery life, and just giving a better overall experience. And so last year we saw with HP, we had a lot of devices with their AMD Ryzen 5000 and 6000 series chips. Well, this year they have brought out new refreshes to those, and we're really excited about coming out with their new Phoenix Point, which is a code name for their Ryzen 7000 series chips. And so as you can see here, they've really delivered on their roadmap on delivering a better experience and delivering on all those things that we need to have delivered to go from that point. And so with that, let's kind of talk a little bit about this AMD Ryzen Pro technologies. So within the AMD realm of the Ryzen and Ryzen Pro, HP uses those chips. And so Ryzen Pro is generally what we at HP generally recommend that folks take a look at. This will be found like in our EliteBook, our higher end series and above that are there. However, we do have a lot of like our ProBooks that do the non-Pro technologies. And the big difference, a lot of questions that we get coming up from people like, well, what's the difference? What do I need a Pro technologies? And what's the equivalent to, say, Intel's vPro technology that's out there? Well, we generally say if you're looking at having something similar to that, always do an AMD Pro technology, and it's for these three reasons. That offers the best security suite, it gives you a better manageability option, and then they're ready. They're going to be around for a long time. As it mentions here, they're going to be around for 18 months of planned software, and it gives you 2 years of availability. And that's very comparable to what the competition is on their vPro. But we do offer that from the Ryzen 3, 5, 7, and 9 series that are out there. And so we generally try to push people to look at their AMD. The other question that we commonly get is like, well, how do I position AMD? Why should I look at it if I've got a customer, somebody that's been buying AMD or Intel in the past? Well, I like to say they're as good, if not better right now, just for the fact that they're delivering a really good experience for manageability. They can even manage in a mixed environment. They're giving you better graphics. They're giving you better performance per watt. And they're offering anywhere from 2 to 4 hours more of battery life, which is a big deal on this mobile side. We'll talk a little bit more about that. But just keep that in mind when you're looking at it and why you should be considering AMD right alongside with the other guys. The big difference is AMD is doing a little different approach on how they're delivering what they're going to people need as opposed to what Intel is doing. But they're as good, if not better. And this will arguably kind of go a little bit as we talk about that. So moving along, one area that we talked about is performance. And then this is an AMD slide that we like to talk about. Again, the environment that we're in, a lot of people are doing a lot of things. And that may be from crunching numbers on Excel, showing several different PowerPoint slides, and maybe opening emails and doing a lot of multitasking. Well, according to AMD, when they've done their internal testing, like on their Ryzen Pro 6000 series, which is available in a lot of our G9 800 series, for example, they're claiming they're getting about 17% faster than the comparable Gen 12 from Intel that's out there. And that's a pretty big deal to say. And a lot of people roll their eyes when they say, well, how has that proved that? There is an awful lot of benchmarks that are out there. And without going into too much of discussions about that, just kind of keep in mind that these are able to handle the today's workloads. And generally, when we're doing a lot of things like it's mentioning here on the general office suites and things, it can handle that very well. And so that's one reason we want to take a look at Ryzen, because it can handle today's office loads that a lot of people are doing. And then even if it's a student loan or a student workload, same question, you can actually be able to run those just fine with that. And then moving along, the other thing is that we talked about, and this gets more importantly for the mobile side of things, we're delivering a really good battery life, and that's the engineering between AMD and their new Ryzen processors, and including with HP engineering. And this is just a quick slide. So on one of our latest and greatest, our G9 865 series, this is a mobile benchmark, which is a public benchmark you can go look at and see. They're able to accomplish almost 26 hours of battery life, which is phenomenal compared to what the competition is doing out there. And if it's interesting, if you look down even on some of the other things, there's several Ryzen processors on this benchmark that are delivering very, very good battery life. And a lot of people ask, well, why is that a big deal? Well, if you think about it in a mobile environment, if I can deliver more productivity in a day or just a few more hours to get something done, that's going to resonate with the customer and a solution that's there. And this will even kind of go into the world where you're trying to compete up against Apple devices. Delivery life and battery life is a big deal. And so this is where HP and AMD have really got a great thing going. And I wanted to quickly flash this up there to show him that we're delivering at least 2 to 4 more hours of battery life than what the competition is offering, even with smaller batteries. That's another thing that kind of gets overlooked, that if they're getting a longer battery life, if they have a bigger battery, that's a bigger, heavier experience that you've got on that mobile device. Well, we're able to accomplish that on thinner and light devices going forward. And it's only getting better with the new latest and greatest Ryzens that are coming out. So that's a really good, important thing to keep in mind. The other area where AMD does a really good job, and this kind of goes into this better together story that we have with Microsoft and what everything that AMD is doing, and along with HP. And it kind of starts in these layers, just like in this picture here. If you're familiar with medieval arms, they used to wear padded leather or whatever type of armor, and then on top of that there was a chainmail, and then on top of that was a plate armor. Well, it's kind of the same thing with the security of our mobile devices. If you start right at the level of the silicon of AMD's Ryzen Pro chips, you've got a really strong message with what they can offer right out of the box. As a matter of fact, some people don't even know this. So they were one of the first what they had to offer the Microsoft Pluton stack of security. Even though HP does not turn that on at the device, it's something that the customer can turn on. And we were one of the first to have that in the Ryzen processor to offer that extra layer of security before Microsoft. And then the next layer up, as we talk about, and I'm sure James can talk more about this, Microsoft Windows 11 is offering a very secure message. And if you put that in on top of that, you've got a really good message that's going to that. But we just don't stop there. Then you may have heard that the Microsoft and AMD are working really closely with the HP Wolf security, which is an additional executive layer that's on top of all of our devices. So our ProBooks, our EliteBooks, our mobile workstations, they all offer that, the best in class security. And some of you may have heard that HP's claiming that, hey, they're the best or world's most secure PC right out of the box. That's something you can't take very lightly. You've got to prove that and legally be able to talk to that. Well, we've actually, between all of our companies that are mentioned here, we've got a really secure message, and that manageability and everything else comes into mind with that. So it's another reason to kind of keep in mind HP AMD might be a reason to look at, because of that strong security to help mitigate against the bad guys. And then moving along, the other thing that we kind of mentioned on there is just the ability to manage. And this is another strong point. This is a slide that's showing on a comparable HP device, one running the Intel version versus AMD, they're about the same. And the other thing that a lot of people don't know, if you're in a mixed environment, I know this was one area a lot of people worried about. HP AMD devices are actually work really well because they can manage each other. They can even help manage Intel using the DAS manageability features, what's available in every Ryzen processor. That's a really good, strong story to tell. And so manageability becomes really easy, and it's not going to be a much of a difference, maybe even better in a lot of circumstances with the AMD machine. So those are just a few compelling reasons that I want to talk about why the folks should be considering AMD and why they need to look at it, and even quote that along with the other devices. Let the customers take that out and see what their findings are, because we have a really strong story from that point. Now, let me switch gears a little bit and talk about why AMD is important to us at the HP side of things. Well, if you can see here, just about 27 years, HP and AMD have had a really good long relationship where we are expanding and growing and trying to develop the best devices out there for that user experience. And you can see over the years, we've had a lot of firsts. Well, that's only continuing. And then in 2023, we've got a really exciting lineup, which is my pleasure to show this next slide that we're going to up here in a little bit, is why we're investing in that. Again, this kind of goes back to this hybrid experiences where the experience is going to dictate we need to have better experiences using better performance devices. And I can say this is the same thing that Microsoft wants to say, or even AMD, that all these different areas where we'll be able to work seamless and have power and performance, and then better where you look good and sound good when we're having a lot of these collaboration things come together. And so my pleasure is to be able to show you our portfolio that we have currently with HP and AMD. So starting up on the upper left, we do have current G9 units, which are available through D&H today, but we're starting to introduce a lot of our G10, which is a new refresh that's only going to enhance and give you better features that are coming. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. But we have our EliteBook 800 series up in the upper left, which are kind of our workhorse. And then we brought out just last year, it used to be a ProBook, kind of our mid-level. We brought it up to the EliteBook, our new 605 series. And that's a really strong a play for a lot of reasons, just for the fact it goes against a lot of areas where a lot of our competition doesn't have, but it's a nice affordable notebook. And then we jump into our ProBook series, which are been very popular along with SMB and even the public sector side of things. We have our exclusive X360 435 that just got a new refresh. And then we just brought out a new refresh of our G10s. And we'll talk a little bit more about them. But I also want to give a little love to some of our other portfolio that's coming out. One of our entry-level notebooks, our 205 series, which has been kind of a general, really received in kind of the one-on-one students where they're giving a notebook out. That's been a really good receiver. And then we even have, I know my friends at Microsoft like this, but we do even have Chromebooks that are out there. And then, of course, thin clients, mobile, and then also desktop thin clients. If you've been selling or doing a lot of HP, AMD thin clients, they're there as well. The other one I'm really excited to talk about is we're going to be bringing out a new Z mobile workstation in the next couple of months. We're going to be bringing out a 14-inch Firefly and then a 16-inch ZBook Power mobile workstation. For those that are working in kind of like the CAD environment where they need to have a lot more power, or what we like to call beast mode on our Z workstations, we're going to be bringing out the first AMD devices really soon. And those are going to be coming out in May and June. So we're really excited about our lineup. We've got a really good lineup, and we're going to talk a little bit more about the G10s and what you need to know about them in just a moment. But I just really quickly wanted to flash this so everyone's aware of all these devices that we have with AMD, most of them being Microsoft powered. And so we want to make sure you know that. Now, moving along, let me talk about this workstation, or this actual workhorse we have in our 800 and 600 series. Where you might want to keep those in mind is we generally really play really well with our performance. This is a slide that's showing up against Dell Latitudes. The reason why I show this, and this is why something you might want to know, Dell Latitude does not have any currently AMD devices in their lineup. And so this is a perfect opportunity for you if you're selling up against Dell, or if you're selling into a Dell lineup, to help differentiate yourself. HP AM devices with the AMD Ryzen in it actually give you a better performance, and again, that better battery life. And then this is something you can even go out and do some research on yourself. There's a lot of third-party technical problems that we get you into that you can go read about this. But these are strong devices that give you the prime performance that you need, particularly even the 6000 series that are in there that are current right now in our G9s. It's only going to get better when we bring the G10s out next month, but really strong plays that are there. The other ones that we'd also have is we've got our 605 series. Again, a really strong entry-level performance for an enterprise device, but it doesn't have all the bells and whistles like our 805 have. I'm not sure if anyone's had an opportunity to look at our HP Presence software, which our 800 series have, where it does use a lot of AI to make that the collaboration features really good, where it makes sure you look good, you sound good, and it'll even use like the cancellation. I most on the bottom right of that corner of that slide, there is a YouTube video that's sponsored by HP that went out with a guy that's going that talks about that and shows that. I highly encourage you guys to go out and take a look at that, and it will talk about some of the differences and a lot of the new features that these EliteBooks have to make them superior devices for that devices that are there. And so make sure that you know that you have that device. But these are really strong plays. The other one that we've actually seen the updates on just barely coming out is on our G10 605s. These are going to be featuring the latest and greatest AMD Ryzen 7000 processors in them. And they will also have the ability to have better megapixel cameras with wide angle views and a low light blue light panel that's going to be in with them. And so those ones we have that are G9s even got better this year with this new G10 refresh. And so just wanted to make sure that you guys know that the G10s are not quite readily available. A lot of them are still getting ordered and coming in. So strongly recommend that you look at the G9s. The other reason that you want to keep those in mind is right now they have the Windows 11 downgrade. We realize that some folks just aren't quite ready to migrate over to a full-fledged Windows 11. That might be a reason to look at them, but time's going to be coming up soon. My understanding is in June 1st and beyond, everything's going to be shipping with the full-fledged Windows 11 to that point. So keep that in mind. But this slide just really quickly shows about some of the new differences. Again, the big difference is the better performance in the processors, and then better collaboration features such as the wide angle cameras and a better camera that's there that's going to be an option. The same is with our new G10's 405 series. Same thing there. The ID didn't change. What was really good on the G9s even got better with the options with the Ryzen 7000 series. So that uptick in performance, and then the ability to get the better cameras. And then you do have a blue light panel that's options on there as well. And so really strong plays for the education market. But we've seen a lot of even federal partners looking at 405 series. And we've even seen a lot of SMB look at that because budgets are getting stretched thinner and thinner. The ProBooks are awesome because they have a looks and feels, just not every feature that's from that point. And same thing, just the differences that are coming out. I did really quickly want to show this will be coming out next month, but we have a new refresh on the 805 series coming out next month. It will be a G10 series. These are going to even get more exciting because this is going to feature AMD's Ryzen 7000 series, codenamed Phoenix, which is going to be even better graphics such as RDNA 3 and even a bigger uptick in battery life and performance. But it's still going to be the strong play that we have. People that need like DDR5 memory, they need to have other options with the 16:10 ratio, the bigger screens. And the other cool thing that I'm happy to talk about, we're going to be offering OLED panels on this device. So something to take a look at. Again, it may not be for every budget. I would say maybe higher education might want to look at this particular series, but a really strong series. It's even getting better. And like I said, these are kind of like our gold star or our flagship product that we bring out from HP AMD just to consider. But more will come on this next month when they release, but I just wanted to quickly flash that up for you guys. Now, one other thing I'm going to switch gears on and talk about, now that you've kind of seen some of the devices and how exciting they are and the performance they bring to the table, one other great thing that might be an interest to you, especially if you're a reseller, is if you're participating in HP's Curiosity Spiffs, where they're giving you pretty lucrative money on the HP AMD device to begin with, they're actually just brought out a new loyalty program. And where that program is, it's going to be evaluated quarterly. They have this starting that's retroed back to February, and it's going to go the rest of this year until the end of October, where depending on the amount of HP AMD devices you sell, you could potentially double your spiff amount money on there. And so depending if it's 10 to 100 units, 100 units to 250 and then above, obviously the better you sell or more you sell, the more money you're going to get. And with that program, just to give you an example, so for example, on the 805 series, say if you sold 50 of those, your spiff is going to be about $1,250. But if you did more of them and progressively get up, this will show you that you could potentially get down to more dollars that are there and potentially double that spiff. Now, all of this program is going to be done through HP's Curiosity. So you'll have to register through the HP Partner Portal program. This is just a quick slide that shows where to find that. But all the terms and conditions and what eligible products and SKUs, it's going to be smart by SKUs only. But again, it's a really awesome program to put more money in your pockets for selling HP AMD. And so I encourage you to go and take a look at that. But if you have questions on that, obviously work with your HP Partner Business Manager, or if you want to work with your team at D&H, they can kind of help you get you started on that. But I really wanted to flash that up real quickly so you knew what that program is, because we're really excited to have that out. And you might as well get paid for selling HP AMD, right? So that's kind of what we're showing that out there. The other thing that I really quickly wanted to kind of go over is some other tools and resources that are out there to help you guys sell. One and first and foremost would obviously be your HP Partners Business Manager if you have them. The other thing is I want to give a shout out to the D&H team. They've got fabulous reps that you could work with, that you can reach out to them and they'll help you on that. And then, of course, I am one of two other resources that are out here to help you. There's my email address. If you have questions, if you want to get connected with other folks to learn more about my D&H, or if you have more technical questions, I can get you access to AMD people. But those are a few other resources that are there. The other ones I also want to mention is on AMD, they have an arena tool, which is kind of a learn and earn tool. Say if you want to learn about their graphic solutions or like these new 7000 series, you can go take these small missions that they have that are short, and then you earn badges. And then these badges you can turn in for experience points. And it's not just your average shirt and hat tchotchkes. You can actually get product. You can even get other experiences that are there. That's another really good resource. The other one that they're also directed and working on is on the HP Partner Portal. They have areas that are dedicated to AMD that you can help resources and go learn more about the product itself. And then there's other resources that I even participate in, like such as this battle card. If you want to look at some of the SKUs, know some of the common spiffs and sells out rebates that are there, reach out to your D&H team or me, and I'm more than happy to get some information on that for you. So there's a lot of tools and things that are out there, but I just wanted to kind of quickly just go over what's available to help you guys learn more about HPAMD and kind of what's going on from that point. The other thing I just want to kind of run up in summary before I pass it over here is we really are positioned to win with HPAMD. We really recommend that if you're selling it and take a look at it, get a demo unit. There's several ways that you can do that. Reach out to your partner business manager. You can even reach out to AMD or even work through D&H. But once you've kind of put that position and let it, we're actually in really great shape to win, not just in the federal space, but in SMB and in education. A lot of education people have taken a look at it. And kind of the other reason I would take a look at it, a lot of times AMD devices are positioned a little less expensive than what the competition's offering out there. And it gives you just as good, if not a better experience than what they've been having. And so it really is a great time to take a look at HP AMD and position it. They've got a great story to tell, and they've got some great things to do it. And so no better time than now to make it lucrative to help you sell HP AMD and get that positioned in front of it. Yeah, there's a lot of questions that have people that have had bad experiences with AMD in the past. I would say I would challenge that a little bit. Go back to them and say, hey, have you tried them lately? And they're not your dad's AMD is what we kind of jokingly tell people. They've done a great job. And the other OEMs are starting to get into AMD as well, but we've got a great relationship with HP, and we're over expanding our portfolio, and we've got a strong story to tell there. So with that, I just want to challenge you to do that. If you have questions, reach out to the D&H team, or you can reach out to directly or work with that. And so that's kind of where I'm at for this point. So I'm going to stop at this point and turn it over to James and give that to you. And I appreciate it for your time and money there.
Wow, Gerald, great stuff. I'm sold. I'll take two. Just kidding, guys. Just kidding. Now let me go ahead and share my screen here. And guys, obviously, as you are looking at the device refresh, as we're looking at Windows 11, and a lot of our partners are having to upgrade their devices because they bought maybe not an up to par device during the COVID scare and everything that was. Autopilot's going to play a big piece into this. So bear with me 1 second. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. All right. Terrific. So again, today we're going to be talking about Autopilot, and I really like to call today a level 100 training, right? The idea is not necessarily to walk away from this and us be at a 9 or 10 in terms of our knowledge for Autopilot, but really to take us more from what I would call a 0 to 3 up to a 5 or 6, where we know why we need it, we know why it makes sense with these HP AMD devices, and we know how to position it or how to utilize it. So we will get into it here. There we go. All right, so now I just want to talk about our learning path, what we're going to cover today. What we're going to cover is what is Windows Autopilot. We're going to cover why your client needs Autopilot. We're going to cover why D&H for Autopilot. We're going to go over some questions to ask and some keywords to listen for. And then lastly, we're going to cover what the prerequisites for Autopilot are. Microsoft probably has a lot of information out on what Autopilot is, right? And it's a lot more than 4 bullet points, but I think if we had to, we can probably break this down into 4 bullet points. And what is Windows Autopilot? Well, Windows Autopilot allows zero-touch deployment. Windows Autopilot is a suite of different technologies that's used to deploy Windows to net new devices. Windows Autopilot results in an end-to-end state of readiness for devices. And then lastly, Windows Autopilot can also perform a reset of local and remote devices on the network. And that's more important now than ever, as a lot of us still aren't back to the office. A lot of us are either working from home full-time, or we're in a hybrid environment where we work from the office partially, we work from home partially. So those are 4 big pieces. And what I like to tell people is if you can remember all 4, that's terrific. If you can't, at least remember the top 2. Windows Autopilot allows zero-touch deployment, and then Windows Autopilot results in an end-to-end state of readiness for devices. I challenge you guys to remember those, because I'll be asking a question later and they may resurface. So write those down, get a screenshot of those. Guys, I want to show you what the Windows Autopilot standard process is, because I think a lot of the times we often think about something, and if we don't really understand it or we don't really know it, sometimes our nature as humans is to shy away from it. Well, here I want to show you what the standard process looks like, because you'll notice it's not really too different from the standard purchase cycle. Here you have it. The hardware vendor, in this case D&H, ships the product, it arrives to the user. Well, that's just your standard purchase cycle. You as the resellers place the order, D&H ships them out, and they get to the end user. Well, where does Autopilot happen? Well, Autopilot for the standard process all happens on the back end. It happens when D&H registers those devices to the Intune tenant. The IT admin of the end user adds the Autopilot profiles that they want for that user. Intune and Azure AD come into play, and as soon as that box arrives, they unbox it, they enter their work credentials, and it all begins downloading from the cloud at that particular point. Again, this is the standard purchase cycle. Autopilot all happens on the back end. It's kind of a no-brainer. All right, question time. And I want you guys to go ahead and put it in the chat, and D&H is going to let me know who answers these questions and who answers it correctly. So what is Windows Autopilot? I'm specifically looking for those 4 bullet points that we mentioned earlier. And let's see if we can get those typed out. I'll give you guys just a minute or so to reply to that. Maybe not quite a minute. Should be pretty quick on this, and we'll see who's quickest to the draw. And hopefully by this point, we've come up with Allow Zero Touch Deployment. It's a suite of different technologies used to deploy Windows to new devices. It's going to result in an end-to-end state of readiness for devices, and it can also perform the reset of those local and remote devices. Hopefully you guys were on that one. Hopefully you're with me on that. So why does your client need Autopilot? Why does the end user need Autopilot? This one's pretty straightforward, guys. It's going to reduce time and expenses on deployments. And as you look at rolling out large deployments, large refreshes, there's not a lot of time. The IT group is already swarmed with 30, 40, 50 tickets maybe, and then they have to provision or program new devices. Where do they fit all that in? We all need more time in our day, and we all know we can't get more time to it. So Autopilot seeks to take care of that. So the configuration is automated. There's really minimal user interaction that's required. It's going to significantly reduce deployment time, which is obviously going to result in a net savings of deployment fees on that. It can also reset those devices. Again, that's a huge one. You know, say someone's working at a Starbucks, they go to use the restroom, they come back and their device is gone. Well, unfortunately, they're probably never going to be able to get that device back. But what's important is, at least with Autopilot, you can wipe that device and get all the sensitive information off of there. So, okay, so now that brings us to why D&H for Autopilot. Well, D&H has a variety of different service offerings, which can range from basic serial number upload, which we talked about earlier, all the way up to white glove services, which can be done per device, or it can be done on a statement of work based. So this allows D&H to take care of your device preparation, which is going to give back that overburdened IT staff some of their much needed time. Again, these guys are battling 30, 40, 50 tickets per day that are coming in, plus now they've got to deploy new devices. That's a big piece that can be tough. D&H can also help with the setup process, asset tagging, as well as kitting. They just opened up a very robust, I believe it's 750,000 square foot warehouse out in PA that can do all of those things for you. And what this is going to do is it allows D&H to become your one-stop shop for devices, device deployment, and device management using those value-added services. So now we get to a very important slide here, guys. Some questions to ask and some keywords to listen for. I say bring the experts into the call. Again, we want to arm you with just enough information to know when this makes sense and when is a good opportunity. And then we want you to bring D&H and let them close the deal for you. So some really good questions to ask. Hey, you're buying these new HP AMD devices. How do you plan on deploying these new devices? A lot of the times I think people will say, oh, I have a guy for that. It's okay. They'll take care of it. The follow-up question, okay, well, what software do you normally use for these deployments? Oh, I don't know, my guy or my girl takes care of that. Then, guys, we really need to ask them point blank period, how long does it take on average for a deployment per device? Because studies show that it can take anywhere from 60 to 90 minutes per device when you're using legacy imaging. Well, with Autopilot, it can all be done on the back end and all be done in just a matter of minutes. So some keywords that I want you guys to be listening out for are new devices. Anytime you hear a partner or customer say imaging or scripting, device management, upgrade readiness, overburdened IT staff, especially when talking about a deployment, or kitting. These are all going to be very, very, very good opportunities to bring up Autopilot. Now, at this point, you may say, okay, Autopilot sounds neat, sounds great, but what do I have to have in order to make Autopilot work? Well, that'd be a really, really good question. What you need is any Windows 10, Windows 11 that you see listed here in the left column. You need Intune and you need Azure AD. So again, any of these Windows OSs that you see listed here, Intune and Azure AD. Now, this middle column, maybe a partner will say, well, I don't know if I have Intune and Azure AD. Okay, well, do you have an M365A1? Yeah, I have M365A1 or I have M365E3. Okay, any of these licenses here in the middle mean that they will meet the prerequisites here on the left side. If they don't meet the prerequisites, then that's no problem. We can hook them up with a D&H Microsoft specialist to talk about what would be needed to upgrade to meet those requirements, and that's a potential upsell for you guys. So we're going to do that thing called audience participation again. I know it's a scary thing. What are the 3 prerequisites to run Autopilot? And a lot of people often think that this is a trick. It's not a trick. We just talked about it just on the last slide. So I'll give you guys just a few seconds to see here and add to the chat. All right, hopefully that was enough time. Bam, it is the Windows OS that you see listed here, 10 or 11, Intune and Azure AD. Again, if they're unsure if they have these bottom 2, if they have any of these licenses here, they're going to be good to go. So guys, some final thoughts that we have here. Hopefully by now you know what some keywords to listen for are. You know why Autopilot makes sense for the client, and you know why D&H for the client's Autopilot needs. So guys, that was Autopilot. That was our Autopilot level 100 piece that we had for you. Now, something that I should include here and something that I want to mention is there are going to be two different winners who register and attend this, and maybe even we can throw in who participated, whether it was through Gerald's questions or through my questions, that will either win an Oculus or a brand new Yeti cooler. Those are a couple pretty sweet prizes, so hopefully you guys really sat through this, you really absorbed it, and you walked away with some of the things that we had for you today. And then Gerald, I think that there is even an HP and AMD Ryzen incentive too, is that right?
Yeah, I believe there's also some things coming through D&H, so reach out to your representative on that and they'll get you taken care of. Correct.
Awesome. Awesome. Yeah, guys, if you have any other questions, please do not hesitate. Reach out. D&H has a plethora of different resources. Gerald and I are both available. And yeah, find out about some of those spiffs that we have coming up for you. And we really do. We appreciate and value your time today, guys.
Thanks, everyone.